Hi, welcome to the Pretty Intense podcast. On the show today is an old friend, Doughty. He is huge on YouTube. Call him a YouTube sensation, a YouTuber. He helps people expand their consciousness. He uses everything from law of attraction to the energetics of things. So today was kind of a philosophizing conversation about relationships, about the energetics of how things work, what it means when you actually have passion for something versus doing something, and what that reality looks like. This is kind of one of those really good love dose days of hearing a conversation about being in alignment with yourself. Enjoy the show. Thanks for stopping by. Please hit the subscribe and bell for notifications when we have shows come out. And let me know what you think about this episode, and let's philosophize in the comments. You're such an OG YouTuber.
I know. Yeah, that is true.
How many years ago? I feel like I started watching your stuff, 6 or 7 years ago. I feel like I was seeing things. I feel like you were talking in Sedona. You would like be bundled up outside. Is that right? And then you would be talking about, I think things had to do with kind of a little bit of like spirituality. Was there like astrology even woven into it? And like,
I had Brock Goldsmith on recently. I don't know if you know who she is. She's like a famous astrologer. But that was like a year ago. Before that though, 5 years on YouTube now.
YouTube, I love YouTube personally. I think it's just the best way to learn.
Yeah.
I do love how the algorithms just continue to give you more of like the same kind of stuff. Do you watch YouTube, or do you just put stuff,
Oh no, I watch YouTube. I'm a YouTube fan. So I don't really watch, I watch House of Dragons and like shit like that, you know? But with YouTube, I love, because part of being able to be good on YouTube is being able to study what's doing well to then learn, so that then I can know how to make better videos and stuff. So most YouTubers, for them to really grow, they have to be obsessed with like learning how to make good videos and see what else other people in the space are doing and stuff like that. So I watch YouTube more than anything else for sure.
What is something new that you're doing that you're like, oh, I got to do more of that?
Not make any videos at all.
Stop it. What do you mean?
I have made videos for like 5 years now, 5 videos, 7 videos a week. Yeah. And I'm at a space to where I'm getting so burnt out from being repetitive that I haven't made a video. It's only been a week, but I'm going to eventually go back, but I'm going to go from 5 videos a week down to like 1 video a week and put more energy into that 1 video a week. And, I feel like my calling is to do more so like live events. And I've known that for like 2 years, but YouTube like has got me so much success and like security that it's been hard for me to let go of like the daily videos. Yes. So the next thing is I have my team. We're all focused on like doing live events, recording it, taking clips from that, putting that on YouTube, and like doing a completely new model, just because that's what I know I'm going to be more passionate about. I've done live events before too, and it's a completely different energy being in front of people versus just like getting in front of a camera and regurgitating content. You know, once you've made 2,000 videos, it just becomes, what else is there to talk about?
What else is there to talk about? But also like, let's talk about maybe even like the energetics of it, because you really have loved making those videos. And I know there was some discipline to sort of make a certain amount or make them every day or make them on a certain cadence, but there was a love and a passion for that. And so if that isn't there, I'm like curious what you think about the energetics of the information in the video. If there's not actually like the frequency of truth and authenticity and like real good passion, then do you think that that's a part of it? Like, I'm curious what your thoughts are around that. And then getting into, of course, the live events and like what feelings come out for that, because feelings are such, they're like the universe isn't hearing our thoughts or our words, it's our feelings.
100%. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because in the beginning, when I started making videos back in 2017, I started making daily videos, and I was so passionate about it because it was so new for me. And it was also the edge of my comfort zone, because I was like afraid to put myself out there in front of people, especially to talk about esoteric concepts that were kind of like, a little bit different way of thinking. I was afraid of what my friends would think, my family would think. I was afraid I wasn't credible enough. Like, all of these doubts came up, and then I started doing it, and it became so rewarding because I was able to see people's comments and just like see the impact I was making. And because it was so new and it was like a stretch for me just to be sharing what's going on in my life and just what I'm learning by studying all this spiritual stuff, I was able to then like, I was just riding that flow, riding that energy, and I was really passionate about it. And it is very important. Like, people feel what you feel. And I'm very aware that the main reason I believe people watch my videos is not because of the concepts. Even though I come up with new concepts and new ways to teach things and stuff like that from the books I read and just my own life, I realized at a certain point that people were watching me because of how it made them feel. There was an energy behind the way I was showing up because I was in my passion. They would feel that, and then they would get bought in and they would watch my videos every day because of how it made them feel. And I remember at a certain point when I was committing to the videos, that one of the reasons I committed to the daily videos was back in 2017 when I was working a sales job selling women's shoes at Barney's New York in Las Vegas. And I knew I wanted to be on YouTube. I'd go on my lunch break every day and I would like sit on my lunch break and I would watch certain YouTubers. So I'd watch like Casey Neistat. I'd watch like these vloggers. And what I noticed is if they made daily videos, every day it was a part of my routine. So Casey Neistat, Roman Atwood, like some of these younger guys, but like I just was so fascinated with like how they were making daily videos, how it was getting me like hooked into their lives and stuff and just their energy. And then what I did is I realized that if somebody stopped making daily videos, sometimes they'd kind of be out of sight, out of mind. So I'd go on my lunch break and then they weren't in my field necessarily and I would fall off. But then what eventually happened is I thought to myself, what if I could be that for other people? So what if I made a video every single day, put it on YouTube, and was just kind of sharing, like the things I'm learning, working that sales commission job. I definitely could use like the law of attraction and stuff because every day you started at zero and then you had to sell. And I could see the different energy if I like had a certain goal of hitting a certain goal, selling commission. I could see how I would do if I went towards that goal with like really serious and trying to hit it, or if I went towards it with the intention of adding value to people that I was helping, or if I went in the intention of having fun with the customers. Like I noticed these different energy shifts that would happen, and I would do a lot better when I was having fun, when I was enjoying myself, when I was like connecting with people and not focused on just the money. And then I would share that in my YouTube videos, and then that was like how I grew my channels. I would just share. I was kind of like this relatable guy that was like learning what I was learning. And that was what I was sharing on YouTube. And then that's what, after like 2 or 3 months of making videos, I had some videos start to go viral. And then I was able to like within 6 months quit my 9-to-5 job and go full time and then figure out internet marketing and all these other things. But it stemmed from following that passion. And where I'm at now is I've been doing this for 5 years. I've run live events every now and then, but I'm realizing that like there's an outdated, I was talking to my team about it yesterday. We have like an outdated software system where like you need to upgrade, but it's kind of scary to upgrade because certain things on your computer will work differently.
Oh, you mean like on YouTube we need to upgrade, or like personally
it's more of an energetic realization. Like, on your computer, like you might need to upgrade to like a new software or a new level, but like it kind of sucks because you're gonna have to get used to learning it, and maybe like the way the old stuff worked better. I'm realizing that within my life now, because even though I'm still somewhat passionate about making videos, I feel like there's a whole new level. And when for example, I had a buddy come here to Austin to do a live event recently, and he asked me to come speak at it. And I was like at the gym, and I'm like, okay, I'll just go because I don't have anything else to do, and it'd be fun. It sounds like fun. It sounds like I'd be passionate about just showing up to his live event. So I just show up to his live event, and I had the intention of only going on stage with him for like 40 minutes to an hour because I had some stuff to do afterwards. And I was like, 40 minutes to an hour is good. I get there and I ended up being on stage for 3 hours. We brought people up, we coached people. It was phenomenal. The energy was insane.
Oh my God.
It was being recorded, and I'm like, oh, well, now that's content I could be putting on YouTube. And that was a sign to me though that, okay, I tried this different thing, different than just sitting in front of a video, like making content. I did something new. I pushed my comfort zone, even though like it's not out of my comfort zone, but I could just tell I get lit up when I'm in front of like a crowd. When I'm live, it challenges me because you have to be able to read a room. You got to be able to, it's a whole different beast. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's so cool. So I'm thinking it kind of reminds me of like even Abraham Hicks style stuff.
Yeah.
Or like even Teal Swan. I mean, there are people that like do live like healings or live work essentially with people. So I'm curious what it is that you feel like you want to bring to the stage. Like what, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I do feel like part of the purpose. I mean, you even say it in the intro, like I help raise people's consciousness. So expand people's consciousness. So what is it that you want to deliver to people from a stage that is new? Like what's in that package that inspires you?
Yeah, that's a good question, because that's exactly what these last, because I've taken a couple, like even just a week off of YouTube, but I've been making less content in general. That's given me space to really go inwards, to decide like, what is it that I'm really passionate about sharing and like helping people with? And the kind of the underlying theme is kind of what you're saying. It's like helping people elevate their level of consciousness, raise their vibration is kind of a new age, kind of like an interesting term, but in general, it's helping people elevate their level of awareness. Because I believe that awareness is like the key to 90% of transformation is awareness, I believe. So the more aware you become of the patterns in your life, the more aware you become of the belief systems that you have, the more aware you become of the attachments, of the labels, the identity, like the more aware you become of all these things, the more power you take back to then put in life. And at a live event, what I like to do is like help people become more aware of these different aspects of themselves that have been in the subconscious. So that normally happens through either coaching people live on stage, doing group energy work. Another thing I'm really passionate about that I've done on YouTube and in different ways is I do these like group meditations where we activate our heart energies and we use the power of group intention to transform our own lives and the planet. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Maharishi effect. It's similar to some of the work Joe Dispenza's doing, Dr. Joe Dispenza, but the Maharishi effect is this like experiment that was done a long time ago, and they replicate it every so often, where you get like 5,000 meditators around the world, and they focus on emoting an energy and setting that intention towards some specific thing. So it could be more love and peace, or whatever the energy is. And they've proven many times that when you get lots of people focused on one outcome, it affects the planet in a way to where it can decrease violent crimes on the planet by up to like 70% for a certain period of time. And I'm not sure if you've ever, also the Schumann resonance, which is like the frequency of the planet. And when we do these, I remember one time, I think it was like May 5th, like in 2020, I did this on YouTube with 12,000 people that were like live at the same moment. And there were people around the world doing this too. So it wasn't just me. But we did that meditation where we like connected into our hearts and, connected to the group energy, which can become very powerful. And then what we did is we sent we tapped in like bringing in love and energy into our bodies. And as we did that, there was like some people had some very transformative experiences. And I could feel it too, because I was like the center point of all those people live, and I could like feel that energy. But also the next day, the Schumann resonance, which is like it's like a way of gauging the frequency of the planet. It was all white. Like it normally comes in fluxes. It was all white. Wow. And it was like, that's what happens when people get together and they meditate using the power of group energy with a specific intention. It can powerfully change the planet. And I think what's happened in society is, not to get too, I don't know how woo-woo this is, but I believe that there are...
Go ahead. I mean, I've had like Elizabeth April on and Teal and people like that. So like you can say whatever the hell you want.
Well, then I'll stretch it a little bit. I believe there are people, like, I'm not a big conspiracy theory person where I'm like in fear and all this shit going on, but in general, I believe that it's a known thing at certain levels that there's this collective consciousness that we're all connected to. Mm-hmm. And I believe that there are people that maybe understand that if you keep people in fear and in anger and in lower vibrational emotions, that their energy is scattered, and that then it's like they're much easier to control. And I think what's happening on the planet right now is people are waking up. They're waking up to their own power. they're waking up to like the ability for all of us to connect together to create transformation on the planet. And I think that when we come together with group intention like that, it does the opposite of what certain people may be doing to like keep the collective consciousness at a certain level. I mean, when you look at the media and the fear that's being projected out into the world, we're so numb to it and so used to it. But like, if you really sit down and think about like just how much negativity is being strung out in the media and stuff, and how there's a narrative and a way of thinking that really keeps people small and keeps people very subservient to like everything in reality. It's silly to me. It's like, wow, it's like people are so bought into that. And part of the work that I try to do, my intention at least, is to help people wake up to them being like understanding or maybe tapping into their spiritual component, that maybe you're an eternal spiritual being living a temporary human experience. And maybe when you come here, you know, you go through crazy shit in life because, and especially early on in childhood, because I believe that helps us to like create pressure so that we can go through a spiritual transformation or through a spiritual awakening. And part of why I believe we came here deep down, even if we don't remember, I think is we came here to elevate our level of consciousness, to grow, and to also come together. I know it sounds super fucking hippie, you know, but like to come together so that we can really like change the planet. Because I think that the timeline that we may have been on in the past is a timeline of like destruction. If you want to talk about weirdness, have you ever heard of Dolores Cannon?
Oh, I love Dolores.
Oh, okay.
Love Dolores. Oh,
okay. Well, that's good.
Listen to hours and hours and hours and hours of Dolores. She's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah. That one thing that really got me into this kind of content was reading her books. It was like the Convoluted Universe books.
I just love like listen to some 80-year-old woman talk about the stuff she talks about so matter of factly, like with a grandma voice. It's so awesome. But I feel like I've heard just about everything that's out there on YouTube for her. That's how much cool. I've listened to her. So I probably should tap into those books.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is something interesting about her, just because she does kind of she has a grandma feel, but she's talking about these very esoteric things. And she says it, you know, she's had thousands and thousands of people in deep levels of hypnosis. And it's not her saying it. It's not like, I believe that, you know, like ETs are real and I believe this or that. It's like this is what's consistently come through thousands of people all over the world who don't know each other. They're not like in a database, like let's say this on this hypnosis, you know, this deep level of our subconscious mind. Let's have this come through, you know?
Yeah. Have you ever looked into, because one of the things that she did was she started teaching people how to go into this deep, deep state of hypnosis that really nobody else was doing, or at least according to at that point in time, to be able to go really deep into the subconscious. Have you ever looked to see if there's like a practitioner nearby or someone that does her techniques?
Oh yeah, I have a buddy of mine that's like, he doesn't do sessions or anything, but he is certified like QHHT. It's called Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. It's a technique that even though she passed away, she has an organization that trains people on how to help people become like, you know, certified in that, to bring people through past life regression or future life regression or higher self, whatever they call it, you know, whatever
anyone wants to call it. It's all, I feel like it's all kind of the same. It's just what name you give it.
Exactly. Yeah. They're tapping into the subconscious mind and there's information coming through. One of the interesting things I wanted to share though about that is what they say through some of the books, the Convoluted Universe books, is which are just like, they're literally just transcripts of her hypnosis sessions, was that what happened energetically back in the 1930s is there were, you know, when the nuclear bombs were going off and stuff, what happened is we were on a timeline then of where the earth could possibly destroy itself because we were experimenting with nuclear bombs. And when the nuclear bomb went off and they were testing with it, the thing is what she says and what people in her hypnosis session say is that the way earth works is we have free will here as a collective to like decide what we experience. And what happened is when we were experimenting with these nuclear bombs, it was going off and it was rippling out into the universe and it was beginning to affect other reality systems. The rule is we are allowed to affect our reality system, but when we begin affecting other reality systems, that's a no-no. So what happened is energetically, there was like almost a call put out to where we needed souls to come to earth to incarnate, because the rule with our reality is this free will thing it's not like ETs can just land and give us technology and we're all fixed. Like it has to come from within the game itself. And part of the game of this reality is you come to Earth, you forget who you are. There's a veil of forgetfulness here. You then go through a process of remembering who you are, or you don't, but there's an option to like remember your spiritual nature and who you are. Mm-hmm. And then you wake up and you go through different levels of transformation. Now, what happened is we wanted, like, there was a call that was put out. So there were so many souls that felt such a deep connection to Earth and to this reality that we decided, we knew it was going to be hard to come here, to completely forget who we are, to then remember who we are. But we knew that like we wanted to help. We wanted to help the planet come onto a higher timeline. We knew that also. Now I believe this, and a lot of texts, like a lot of ancient texts kind of point to this time, and Dolores Cannon material and other, Abraham Hicks and other channelers. But in general, I believe right now is one of the most important and like impactful times to be alive ever on the planet, because there is a global shift in consciousness that is happening. And a lot of the shit that's coming to the surface, I believe, is to help us become more aware of like what's going on in the collective consciousness so that we can clear it out. And that pressure is creating transformation. So whether I think people remember it or not, I think we forgot who we are to remember who we are. And we came here to play according to the rules of life in a way to where we forget to remember. And then now we're remembering. And the more of us that come together and remember this, the more that we're creating transformation on the planet, and the more that we're letting go of old belief systems, old power dynamics. And that's what's happening, I think, in the political sense too. It's like things look we're seeing how silly, like we've been running shit for so long, and we're able to like kind of like let that come to fruition, to become aware of it, that now we can just like let it go and maybe move into some higher ways or higher levels of like interacting both individually and collectively. So that's kind of, the perspective that I really resonate with, is that we came here for this. We may not remember, and our purpose is to really just be who we came here to be, like to really elevate our own vibration, elevate our own level of consciousness, become aware and follow our passion. And that's kind of loops into what we were talking about in the beginning, but like the passion is the key, following the passion. And knowing that when you're in that energy state, that is where more probabilities and more synchronicities come into our life. That's why I know that when I start doing these live events, even if it's not specifically the live events that bring me like the abundance right away, it's me being in the energy state of doing the live events that will propel me to be in a new energy, to where then I perceive of new synchronicities in my life that I couldn't perceive of before, because before I was just in an old energy state that brought me success for 5 years, but it's like, it's not bringing me the same energy anymore. So I need to change something. And that's why I know that if I just follow this carrot on a stick of like doing live events, I'll figure it out as I go. Maybe that is bigger 1,000-person plus live events that are like using group energy and stuff. Maybe it's more so I do live events to get content that I put on YouTube, and that grows the virtual audience. I don't know, but I know I'll figure it out as I go from just being in that state,
Yes. Yeah. Trusting the energy, trusting the direction that it's pulling you in, that it is going to serve the next purpose.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I totally agree with all that, by the way, is people are listening and if they're still with us, I'm sure that they're totally jiving with all this stuff. But whether it's the person listening that might not completely get it, or whether it's someone that they know that might need it, like what is it that gets people? You mentioned at the beginning, like 90% is awareness, right? When people talk about being like, feeling like kind of overwhelmed or frustrated, or like there's a lot going on and it's really difficult, I'm like, you're so much further along than you realize. The fact that you have awareness to something you want to fix.
Yeah.
People literally go through entire lives without ever seeing the thing that needs to get fixed. And so the fact that you come to an awakening or a realization that you want to change something is already so much of the work. So the real question I have is like, what does it take to get that? Like is that something that could be manipulated? Meaning like, can you get people to that state, or are there like signs that people should look out for that would sort of be a hook into how they can heal patterns, heal relational patterns, heal ancestral patterns? How do people get into that space where they can have the awareness? Because that to me seems like it takes the longest. I mean, yes, the alchemization of energy to grow and expand. Like, here's the deal. Lessons are always hard. Like, as many waves of it as I've gone through, I'm like, this is so hard. And then you're like, fuck, it's because it's another lesson. And they're supposed to be hard. That's what it takes to get to shift it. So how do we get people into awareness?
The first thing I'll say is everybody that is listening to this right now are so like already have to give themselves credit, because when people are in the energy of like, you know, consuming content that is about this kind of stuff, where we're talking about awareness and transformation and everything that you share on your podcast, they're already ahead of a large percentage of the planet. Not that we need to develop a spiritual ego about it or anything, but like it is true. Like there are so many people that are asleep and that are just in their patterns, and they're just like completely kind of immersed into that, to where they feel like at least they don't have the ability to like tap into that awareness. So if you're even able to perceive of this episode right now, then give yourself credit, because you are already on the path. If you know, you're already looking at yourself, you're already on the path of awareness. And the key with awareness that I found is awareness is so simple. It's just observation. It's observing what's happening in your body. It's observing what's happening in the mind. And the best way that I've learned to do that is through kind of what we were talking about earlier, where you take space. Like I'm taking space from making YouTube videos. That's allowing me clarity. It's taking space from life. I think a lot of times we are watching the news, we're watching social media, we're consuming all these things that may not be having the best effect on our vibration or our energy. And then we're staying in the hamster wheel. So to gain awareness, it's simply asking yourself new questions. Like, what am I passionate about? What do I believe about what's like happening? How do I feel about it? And another thing that I'll share that like has been something that I share on my channel that I hear people reach back to me all the time and say, this thing changed my life. And it's so simple. I learned it from my shadow work integration coach that I had a while ago. And it's a very simple embodiment practice. I call it the frame technique. So I have like a video on YouTube called the frame technique. And it's a very simple process, but it literally is bringing the awareness into the body and feeling the separation between you and like a candle flame, or you and the wall, or you and the computer right now. If you bring the awareness into your body and you feel the separation between you and another object, or you and another person, if you have somebody that you have trouble setting boundaries with other people, and you feel like maybe there's like an ex that you want to let go of or something, what you can do is bring the awareness into the hands, bring the awareness into the feet, and actually focus on the separation between you and this other person. And in the spiritual community, there's this like, we're all connected. Let's all feel connected. But that is only one side of the equation. A lot of what spiritual people need, I believe, is actually to feel separation. Because in the separation, you're able to actually feel safe in your own body. And you're able to delineate, this is me and that is you. And even though we're all connected, that's where people where they feel like they're not able to tap into awareness, is because they feel so pulled into so many different directions. Like, what does my mom want me to do? What does my boyfriend and girlfriend want me to do? Or my husband, wife? What does my kids want me to do? Or they're trying to please everybody. And then you don't know who the fuck you are.
Or for empaths or highly sensitive people.
Exactly. And that's who that frame technique helps the most, is empaths. It's people that feel so connected to everybody else. And what that I found, and I talk about, this is something I've learned from my own life, is that's being an empath, I believe, is somewhat of a learned mechanism that has been birthed because of trying to get your own needs met. So for example, growing up as a kid, I was someone like this because I had to, like, in order to get the approval or validation as a kid, I had to tune to my environment to feel safe. So part of being an empath is tuning to other people and feel like into what they're feeling, because then it's like, if I can make you happy, or if I can please you, or let the tension go away and avoid tension, and you feel good, then I can feel good. Yes. So it's a mechanism that was learned as a kid to ease tension, to then get other people to feel a certain way. So then I could say, oh, now I can feel safe. And the problem with that, though, is that then when you tune to other people that often, what ends up happening is you lose your sense of self. You lose what I call your frame, your sense of frame, and feeling safe in your own frame and being able to set boundaries with other people, being able to feel and live according to your own values. Because as a people pleaser or an empath, you tune to other people and your values become their values. Whatever they value, like, I value that too. And you're like, who the fuck am I? You know, what do I value? What's important to me? And that's why I think it's very important, this whole frame technique process of just bringing the awareness in your body, is then you could start saying, like, what do I actually value in my life? And what I had to realize to shed the people pleaser persona is I valued, as the old version of me, I valued validation and approval from other people. That were like my top values. I wasn't aware of it, but I became aware that, oh wait, I really want people to like me. I really want people to like feel good around me. And I then became aware that I was living by those values to get my inner childhood needs met that weren't met, of validation and approval. And then I became aware of how much that was actually hurting me. I became aware that in dating, I was dating women where I felt like I had to fix them or I had to please them, and then that was making the masculine feminine energy dynamic not very grounded, and that was not good for the relationship. And I noticed that my dad, I got it from my dad. My dad's like a typical nice guy, that he attracted my ex-stepmom who was a narcissist. And that was the dynamic that I saw. Fun. It's a trap that a lot of people fall into, unfortunately. But yeah, and it was, I could see how it never, as a nice guy or a people pleaser, you think if I do this strategy, I'm going to get my needs met, but it actually doesn't really work because people don't respect you. And then you feel like you're getting pulled in different directions. But I decided, instead of living according to validation and approval, I'm going to live according to the values of vulnerability and authenticity. And the thing with vulnerability is that's the ability to like show the real you. So people pleasers and empaths are afraid of showing their real emotions. They're afraid of being vulnerable. They're afraid, back in the day, I'd be afraid to like show someone I was dating that I was attracted to them. And what I learned after like this transformation is like, I now express that. I express that desire. I express my true emotions. I don't hold it back. And it has a completely different effect on masculine feminine energy dynamics. And what I realize is like that it takes vulnerability to ask somebody out. It takes vulnerability to show your own emotions and to show how you really feel. And when someone says something you don't like, to like say, hey, I don't think that was cool. It takes vulnerability to do that. And the main wound of the empath, of the people pleaser, is an abandonment wound, where they're afraid other people are going to leave. And the way out of the abandonment wound is actually into vulnerability. It's into being able to let go of the shame, which means I'm broken. The shame is like, that's what people are hiding that have that people pleaser, nice guy persona. They're trying to hide the belief that I'm broken. But when you're able to show the real you and live according to that vulnerability, it takes courage. But as you do it, you start rewiring your sense of beliefs of who you are and your own sense of worthiness. And you start realizing you actually are worthy. And that's what changed my life more than anything, was valuing vulnerability and authenticity over validation and approval, and becoming aware of my own values. What do I choose to live by? Those values plus other values, following my passion and, things like that. And that's completely transformed my life, but it's come through feeling separation between me and other people more than anything. And that's helped me feel safe in my frame. And it's completely changed like how I show up. It's completely changed my masculine, like how I show up in my own energy in so many different ways.
Wow. That was beautiful and well said. And yes, there's such a difference between attunement and absorption.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to decide to attune to someone can be beautiful, but absorption of energy is confusing. You never know where you start and end compared to someone else. As you were talking about the abandonment wound, on the other side of the coin would be like more of the avoidant or narcissist, someone on the other side of the spectrum. But the thing is that it's actually like very much similar original wounds. It's, the narcissist also doesn't believe they're good enough. And they put a facade or a mask on, and they just kind of push people away instead of people pleasing. And, that's the funny thing about life, is that, it's part of the same whole. Like, everything's a circle. It's not an end to end thing. It's just the other side of a circle. And that it's the original wound is very similar. It's just not having your emotional needs met, and that people just have different ways of dealing with them. But we're all trying to correct that original wound of wanting to be seen. So I want to get into relationships because I feel like they're just like, they're so hard. I don't know how you feel, they feel so hard. Like, what the hell are they for? Because they are so hard. Like, let's just start there. Okay. Why are relationships difficult? Intimate relationships. I mean, any relationship can be, but let's just like circle around intimate right now, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think relationships can be so hard because they bring up our own childhood wounding that maybe we aren't aware of.
Why?
Because when we're I believe when we're kids, we have a certain way that we relate to our parents, and we have certain meanings. And when we're like born to about 7 to 9 years old, we're primarily in theta state. And in theta state of brainwave activity, we're literally absorbing the belief systems, the energies, and the patterns of our environment. And
all the way up to that age, including the years before. I mean, Bruce Lipton would say it's from like the last trimester in the womb still until, sort of that 7 years old or so. Like all of that you're absorbing. Yep. You think that yelling in front of your baby in the crib is not going to do anything because they won't remember, but they're actually like storing that shit at a hyper level.
Yeah, I think of sometimes like a scenario where like I've seen it before at a grocery store where like parents are with the little kid and the little kid doesn't want to go somewhere and they're like, okay, bye, as if they're going to leave the kids. And as a little joke, but I'm like, that kid is literally absorbed and then starts crying because it thinks that his parents are just going to leave him or her in the middle of a store, So it's kind of a funny example, but little things can very much impact the parts of our identity. And when we're born up until 7 to 9 or whatever, but to even not even born, like in the trimester, like in our mom, we're absorbing belief systems and patterns and energies. And the thing is one thing that we're trying to we're subconsciously, I believe, trying to do in our relationships is we're trying to kind of close the loop from childhood. We're trying to close the loop and kind of like heal. And we find partners that replay normally very familiar energy dynamics from when we were kids. You're somebody that had maybe a controlling mom or dad, then you may either adopt certain patterns yourself, or you might just naturally be attracted to people that have that same type of familiar, safe energy. And that's in relationship, that's where it comes out. Like it comes out through intimate relationships. That's where emotional availability comes into play. And then the different strategies that we have in order to give and receive love. From 7 to 15, I had that narcissistic stepmom in my life. My dad finally divorced her. After my ex-stepmom left my life when I was 15 years old, I had all this freedom. I was able to have friends because I didn't have friends before that. I wasn't allowed to, I had to kind of earn going to school activities and stuff. And then I have all this freedom. It's like a whole new reality. But what ended up happening is I kept attracting women into my life that were very controlling. So I attracted an ex-girlfriend that was very jealous and insecure and trying to always control everything I was doing. And what ended up happening is she was in my life for 4 years. I didn't end the way the relationship ended wasn't necessarily me ending it. It kind of stuff happened and then it had to end. That was the pattern that I kind of learned. You just kind of stay in it as long as you absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Then eventually when that breakup did happen, I then got transferred to a better department. When I worked at a certain women's shoe department, I got transferred to designer shoes, which is more money. The manager of that department was the same exact energy dynamic of my ex-stepmom, literally to a T. She was controlling, manipulative. She couldn't physically obviously do anything, but emotionally and the way she would talk to us, she was protected by upper management, so we couldn't get her fired, she was in my life for 5 years while I was working that sales job, 3 to 5 years. And then what happened is I went through my spiritual awakening in 2012. And what happened is I ended up forgiving my ex-stepmom I learned meditation, and I learned, I started seeing what my ex-stepmom did is I could see that she was treated the same way by her dad. And that's why she learned that pattern. And she was doing the best she could from the level of consciousness she was at. Yeah. It didn't necessarily make it right, but it did help me understand her more. And then I ended up forgiving her. And within 2 weeks of forgiving her, that manager got fired, which was crazy because for a year, we tried getting her fired because she'd do this crazy shit, but she was protected by upper management and we couldn't get her fired. And then within 2 weeks of me forgiving her, she got fired. It's she energetically left my life because it didn't resonate with my energy anymore. I'd learned the lesson or I'd forgiven and it wasn't active in my field. And that was trippy for me because what if, it sounds kind of egotistical for me to say there were 12 other people in that department. But the moment I healed that energy within myself, that person, like that energy then left my life. And I've never dated someone that was narcissistic like that or had someone in my life like that ever again, because I think I'm aware of the energy. I notice it within seconds. Like when I meet people, not that I'm trying to just judge people and say, oh, this person's a narcissist, but I can very quickly tell someone's intentions within just a couple minutes of meeting people. And I just choose not to like interact or get intertwined with people that do have that energy dynamic alive.
Amazing. There's a lot of healing that comes through in relationship, especially intimate, as you know, we're getting poked at our deepest, most vulnerable points, and we're trying so hard to make those work. But what about the healing within? So there's like the masculine and feminine essentially with a relationship, but then what about the one within you? What about your own masculine, feminine balance and energy? How important do you think that is to the whole puzzle of being in a balanced, intimate relationship?
I think it is. I think it's very important. I think that we attract partners based on the energy that we're embodying. So if like I noticed that in the past, if I wasn't in my true like masculine energy, I would attract people that would have that activated within themselves. And then it almost like we'd be competing for the masculine spot. So we'd have to like kind of like merge back and forth. and it was an interesting energy that I became like aware of. And one thing that I think happens when we go through a spiritual awakening that Carl Jung talked about is called the anima and the animus. And the anima and the animus is the personality like structure within ourselves, where once we go through a spiritual awakening, we kind of shift to the other side to then heal it. And so for a lot of times, women may shift into more of their masculine side, because deep down there's like a desire to learn that and to heal that energy. And for men, they'll go into their feminine side. That's why when you see a lot of like spiritual dudes, you might see like some spiritual hippie dudes that like are very feminine energy. And it's kind of a natural stage that people go through. Some people stay there for a long time, but you also see, you know, a lot of like, women that go through spiritual awakening that then are like women's empowerment and energy like that. And there's nothing wrong with any of it, but it's very important to understand kind of like why you're going into that energy and to understand where your core is. Because I think sometimes people go through some type of trauma where they may have gone through something where maybe they have a masculine wound or a feminine wound, and then they take on the energy themselves and they figure they need an embodiment because their needs aren't being met. And that is kind of also a strategy that's been created to not really surrender to the masculine or the feminine. So for example, someone may say, well, it wasn't safe for me around the masculine growing up because my dad was kind of toxic or this person was kind of toxic. So I'm going to activate that energy within myself and I'm going to grow my business and be focused on all these masculine perspectives because that's where I find safety. I don't need anybody else because when I needed dad back in the day or I needed masculine energy back in the day, it wasn't provided for and I didn't feel seen and heard. So I don't need it. And then it's like an energy of, kind of fulfilling that role within themselves. But then they attract people that maybe aren't in their masculine energy, or they attract people that are more feminine because it's playing off that energy that's being embodied. So part of the work is really going into that energy and becoming aware of the kind of like the mini trauma that may have happened or the association, the belief about the masculine and feminine energy, and then learning to surrender more to that. So if somebody wants to attract a more masculine partner, then it's like them softening in their feminine energy. Or if they're a guy and they want to attract a more feminine woman or whatever the dynamic is as far as like sexuality goes, but then it's to embody more directionality. You know, the masculine is very directional. It's very penetrative. It's going in a specific direction. And I see sometimes a lot that there's men that they don't know where they're going. They're very flowy state. There's nothing wrong with it, but when you get more into that directional energy, you feel more masculine and you feel more grounded. And that's really what the feminine wants. The feminine wants to feel safe in the masculine directional energy and wants to feel safe and seen and heard and not fixed. You know, it's what the feminine wants more so. And then the masculine just wants to feel appreciated, and like nurtured, you know? So it's kind of understanding those energies within themselves. I went through a phase where I had to heal the mother wound in a way where, I felt like I didn't receive a lot of nurturing growing up. I knew my mom was going through a lot of stuff when I was a baby because her dad passed away and stuff. So when she was young, when I was like 3, and she went through a whole process. So I had to learn kind of like how to relate to the feminine in a different way. And I had to learn that a lot of the stuff that I experienced growing up, the shame and the belief I was broken, absorbing kind of my mom's stuff, I had to realize that wasn't mine, that it wasn't my fault. It wasn't because I wasn't good enough. And once I realized that, and I was able to kind of separate the energy and realize that a lot of that nice guy, people pleaser persona wasn't even mine. It was my dad's and my mom's energy. And then I was able to get into who I choose to be and how I choose to embody energy. And that was life-changing for me because I realized that I'm not the result of my past. I'm not my mom and my dad's energies. And I felt free.
Have you had to address a father wound?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Because I was going to say, like, part of my journey has been like thinking it was the father wound and then realizing that actually the one that holds the most amount of power and transformation was the mother. It wasn't so obvious to me. It sounds like that was maybe how your dad was with you, where it seemed like the mom was sort of the inflammatory sort of like ingredient to the situation. And so I thought that was kind of my dad. And then I realized that ultimately none of it changes until I heal the mother one, because that's how I acted. Like I realized I acted like my mom, and I can't, until I change how I think, feel, and act, my reality can't change. And so it was actually the mother wound that ended up being the one that stops the father connection, those relationships being attracted to me that were like my dad. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's a powerful insight.
It was brutal insight. It was like emotional, brutal insight. And it's still a lot of work, but yeah, that was a big part of it. As far as relationships go, I love asking the question to people. And it sounds kind of like such a cynic or something, but what's the point?
What's
like
the point?
Why get married? Why be in a relationship? Why try and find someone for the rest of your life? We look at it like this thing that's supposed to, you find the one person for the rest of your life and you stay together, and it's bad if breakups are sad, and that's sort of like some sign of some kind of level of failure in some way. I don't think that everyone always looks at it like that, and we're growing, but like the idea would be, and I still feel this way, it's like, when do I find someone that, like stands the test of time, and that we grow together instead of apart, or one grows and the other doesn't? But is that even what I should be looking for? Or now that we live to 100, or, soon enough, it'll be 120, or talk to Dave Asprey and it's 180. Is it likely, is it realistic that we're supposed to be with somebody for 50, 60, 70 years?
Yeah, that's a very interesting, good question, because I think it's also questions that I ask myself sometimes too. I think when it comes to relationships, for myself at least, the purpose of it for me is growth, because I have grown more. Like I've been able to like create a lot of success in my life through YouTube and putting myself out there and following my passion, but I grow way more in relationships. Like I grow way more through relationships, and maybe because it hits so much deeper, closer to home. But some of my most suffering, most challenging moments have been through breakups or relationships. Yeah. And I think that, there's like sayings that like, it's one thing to go meditate in a cave for like 20, 30 years, but try like living with somebody and having all these different things rub up against each other. Like, right. I think the purpose of it for me, and maybe for, I think it's a way that we exponentialize our spiritual growth. And it's the way we look at our inner childhood needs that maybe weren't met. And we learn how to have those needs met through ourselves and others, and how we relate to other people. So connection and growth for me is like what I notice. I grow more through that. And as far as like the being with one person forever, I question that too sometimes, but I wonder how much of that comes from my own upbringing, because I've seen my dad go through 2 divorces with my mom and then my ex-stepmom. And I've seen the pain that causes. And I've seen my mom go through like breakups and stuff. And I have like my best friend, him and his wife have been together 15 years. And his parents are like, his mom and dad are still together. Her mom and dad are still together. His wife, who's a great friend of mine. And it's like, I wonder sometimes like how much of that is like their belief is that like relationships last forever. And am I wounded because my parents weren't together? So maybe my notion is that like, oh, it probably won't, eventually I'll get tired of it, or it won't work out, and I wonder if that's just my experience, my belief system. And the thing that I'm looking to do is to really go into that and to kind of learn as I go and not put too much pressure on a specific like relationship, and to like assume, oh, that's a lot of pressure to say, oh, this needs to last till I'm 100 or 180 years old. I've been learning to take things more in the moment and to see the person that I'm dating or the person I'm spending time with as is it just something that I can share for as long as it lasts and learn from it, and not have that expectation of how long it's going to last, but just kind of like learn as I go. And I think I'm redefining what that is as I go. So in like 10 years, maybe I am like, oh, I want to be, with one person my whole entire life. But I think that we have many soulmates in our life. And I think that maybe in that, like talking about the Dolores Cannon stuff, maybe, we in higher dimensions and higher realities, we may live like 800 years old, So
right.
It's like we may shift through different, life partners and seasons and things like that. So I don't know the answer, to be honest. What do you think?
It's just such an interesting thing to contemplate. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, thanks for asking. When you say my belief and what I am here to do in this life is to grow and evolve. Like I believe fundamentally that is the point. And what I wonder is if relationships bring in the highest potential to move through those spaces and grow, does that mean that they will be grown out of, because they are attracted for a certain dynamic to heal?
Yeah.
And once that's healed, then you move on. Like, I'm wondering if that's just literally the dynamic of the situation with a relationship is like, if you grow, you kind of grow past them because they are an old pattern. And then I wonder, like, is it just your orientation with the self? Do I need to create that relationship with myself? And then, in an Abraham Hicks style, wording, like I can use that person, my partner, as my point of attention for all the positive, and like nothing could change that. Like that I could use them for all of it, and instead of focusing on the negative or the bad. And maybe it's just meant to be maybe then you're able to move through life with someone if you don't choose to look at the negative in someone, and you have that have a certain relationship with the self. And that's kind of where I wonder about the masculine and feminine within each one of us being a critical element to a real union, the one that is harmony, the one that does last, the one that one can flow through events and challenges, because you're not using them as your growth, and you're not using them as you're not moving past them. So I don't have an answer. I have questions more than anything. So most of my life is spent sort of philosophizing about stuff with my friends and family and people. So I just love to ask these questions that I know that there's probably not necessarily an answer, but the way that we figure it out is through talking about it. And I'm just generally curious, but they do hold a lot of power, and I do seek them. And so yeah, it's interesting. Maybe we should talk about consciousness just a little bit. Since you talk about expanding people's consciousness, I'm curious, like what is consciousness to you?
Well, it's funny because I've said in like thousands of YouTube videos now, like, my name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness.
Yep.
Their consciousness is, I don't think it is something that can actually be expanded, because it is like, it just is. Like consciousness is like awareness. It just is. But I guess it's more like expanding awareness, because when you expand your scope of awareness, like I know there's like a saying that when you're looking through like a golf size hole, you're gonna have like a golf ball size consciousness. But if you expand it, you then see way more, So I think consciousness and awareness, it just kind of is. And what we're doing is we're becoming more aware of the subconscious parts of ourselves, or the patterns and the energies. And as we do that, that's when our life really changes. When we become aware of those attachments, or we become aware of the energy that we're living in. When I was working a 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes, I energetically knew, okay, I'm working at my thoughts, my actions, my emotions, everything was I was in complete alignment with that version of me, but then I became aware. I'm like, oh wait, I see myself and I am embodying like somebody that works a 9-to-5 job. I am letting someone tell me what to do. I'm not taking initiative. I had to start taking initiative as like making videos and like building something apart from my 9-to-5 job. It required a different level of consciousness, a different level of awareness. So in general, just to kind of summarize, I think it's something that already exists, and it's the more aware we become, the more then we're able to like see how we're thinking, feeling, and acting. And then we can more so look at ways of embodying the energies of what we want to create. Because for me to become a full-time YouTuber, what I did is I literally just decided to be a full-time YouTuber. My thoughts, my emotions, and my actions were all aligned to what would a full-time YouTuber version of Aaron be doing. And I said, I'm not going to wait till I have 100,000 subs and people tell me my videos are good, or I have all this like, success in my life for me to like share what I'm doing. I'm going to just decide that the moment I start it, I am it. So the moment I started making videos, I started seeing myself as a full-time YouTuber. And then within weeks, my whole entire life changed.
So is that a visualization technique? Or is like how, when you say that, what would you tell someone to do?
I would tell them to go into a meditation, begin to tap into using the power of your imagination, connect to, you could call it your higher self, your higher mind, or God, or whatever label you want to give it. But ask yourself, like, what does the version of me that is the most passionate version of me, that is the highest vibrational version of me, or whatever, what is that version of me doing on a daily basis? How is that version of me showing up? And through your power of your imagination, you can begin to get clues as to what that is. And for me, I was living at my dad's house, working that sales job selling women's shoes. And for me, I did this meditation where I imagined it. And I saw that version of me is making daily videos. And literally, this sounds woo-woo, but I felt like I got a message from my higher self or whatever that said, if you make a video every single day on YouTube, your life will transform. So I said, okay, no matter what, every single day I'm going to make a video until I'm full-time, like just because this is who I choose to be, but also because it'll change my life. I believed it. So I made a video every single day, and I made it from the energy of not of once I make 100,000, once I have 100,000 subs, then I'm a YouTuber. Like I saw myself and was being a full-time YouTuber. I was modeling the thoughts, the feelings, the actions to that version of me. I could tell that version of me that's a full-time YouTuber, had to like learn how to make thumbnails. I had to learn marketing. I had to learn how to, there were all these things I didn't know at the time when I first made my first video, but that was like, oh, I need to learn marketing. I need to learn how to make thumbnails. I need to learn how to edit. I edited all my videos the first couple months of like the first 6 months of making videos. I edited all my own videos. So I had to learn how to do that, And like the main message I have though is to start, because once you start, and you take on the identity and the beliefs of that's who you are now. And it's important to be it because you choose to be it, not be it because it's going to help you escape. A side effect of me being that full-time YouTuber was that I could eventually quit my 9-to-5 job. But when people want to be a YouTuber because they want views, they want money, that a lot of times I find is you're making it a means to an end and not an end of itself.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why now it's like, I'm realizing that the beingness of being a YouTuber is like outdated for me, and I want to do live events now. So I'm aware of that energy, but in general, you want to be it because it's who you choose to be. And when you're in that energy, it's very different than being it because of what it'll get you or something like that. I've had things I've learned in the past about like things I could do online to make money before I was on YouTube, and I would do it and I would give up because I wasn't really passionate about it.
Right.
But once I then like did something, my heart lit my heart up on fire. It's like the universe rewards that. The universe, in a way, is going to reflect back the energy that you're embodying. So one of the biggest like lessons I teach on my YouTube channel and all my content is every moment. Quantum physics is showing us that every moment's a new moment. That every moment, the cells in our body are dying and being reborn. And if every moment's a new moment, every moment you're a new version of you. You can be who you choose to be. The only thing that keeps you held back is your story. It's the story about who you are. It's the story, I'm Aaron, I work a 9-to-5 job that I don't enjoy, but I feel like I have to. It's a story. It's a belief. And you can let go of it at any moment. And once you become aware that it's a belief and it's a story, you can then choose something new, because every moment you're a new you. So every moment you're a new you, and every moment you're a new you, why would you keep telling yourself the same story over and over again once you're aware that it's a story? It was never built in reality that Aaron Doughty is a shoe salesperson or whatever. Like I realized that was just something I agreed to that was on autopilot. And once I became aware of that, I then shifted the energy and I started to embody a full-time YouTuber version of myself. That meant I was sometimes working in Vegas. I would work till 11 or 12 at night because I worked on the Strip. And I would get home at like 1 a.m. I would film a video, edit the video, schedule the video to go out the next day. And I did that. So not all the time, I would get ahead on videos, but there were a couple times I had to do that because it was a part of my identity. And people would ask me, Aaron, how are you able to make so many videos on YouTube? It was easy because it's a part of my identity. I was like, what do you mean? It's like if you were to go to the gym, and I know you work out and stuff. So like, imagine the first time somebody ever goes to the gym and they're like, oh my God, it's so hard to go to the gym. And then they do it again. And then they do it again. And after a month, they're like, their identity shifted. They're like, it's like, is it hard for you to go to the gym? You're like, no, I'm a gym goer. Like I go to the gym or I do yoga or whatever that is. It's easy once it clicks into your identity. And for me, I was being a YouTuber, and then all these other YouTubers were making 1 video a week, 2 videos a week. And they're like, how are you able to make 7 videos a week? That's crazy. And it was easy because it was a part of my identity.
It was the way.
It was the way. And now it's becoming outdated. Now
okay, that's what I want to know. Okay, what's the update?
Well, the update now is that my identity is shifting. Like there's a fear that comes with letting go of just making so many videos on YouTube because it's brought me so much success.
Right.
But I have to let go of that version of me in order to like become and to put my energy into this new version of me of doing live events, of putting my energy there with my team and into that kind of energy. Because at one time I had to let go of being a full-time, shoe salesperson.
Right.
I had to let that go. And that was scary too. Even though I was more excited about making videos, it's like I get paid 60, 70K a year to like stand around in a suit, sell shoes. And this thing, the first year, I think I made close to that. I made maybe 50K. I made less than I made the first year in 2017. And then after that, everything exponentialized because I learned internet marketing and I learned all these different things. Then my channel blew up to over 1 million subscribers. And when that happened, there were more opportunities. But now the fear is letting go of and I'm not completely letting it go because I'll still have videos, but like in the way that I've related to it, I have to let that go. And I feel like I get to really like wire in a new version of me that is like doing events every month or something like that. Even if it's just small at first, I might just do it just to get my energy into it. Do like 50 people, like 50 person live event, like here in Austin, like with no pressure, literally just do it to make content, to have like someone on my team is like an expert at like, all the tech stuff. So like if at a live event, he records everything and, I can replay that energy onto YouTube and stuff. So what I could do is have, everything recorded and put that on YouTube. And because I'll be in a different energy state, I think it will do not only, and it shouldn't be an attachment to mine that it has to do as good as the old stuff, but there needs to be the awareness that like, I need to like to wire in this new me. I need to be a new me. I need to be this me that is more passionate, more in my heart, and let go of the attachments of the familiar energy, the hamster wheel that I've created, even it's a much better hamster wheel than the 9-to-5 job goer version of me, but it's still a hamster wheel that I feel caught in sometimes,
How does this story end in your mind? This story of your lifetime and the planet and this great awakening and everything. Like write the story for how you hope it will go from from your standpoint and from a collective standpoint.
Yeah. I believe that as time goes on, and talking about the collective first, I believe that as time goes on, right now what's happening is a form of initiation. There is, when we go through as an individual, many of us that have been through spiritual awakenings have gone through a lot of pressure early on in life that has allowed us pressure to then create like a new dimension to ourselves, whether that's the spirituality, that kind of connection. And what's happening at a collective level is everything is getting shaken up and there's a lot of pressure that's being created. There's a lot of fear and a lot of lower vibrational emotions that are being evoked. And what I think is coming out of this is more and more people are waking up. More and more people are waking up to questioning their reality, questioning the way things are ran, questioning the fear and all this energy that's being projected. And as people are questioning it, They're starting to question, like, what do they believe? Who are they? Why did they come here? People like back in the day, I think people would, work like 50 years and work jobs they freaking hated. And that was the norm. And now people, like, they're not settling for that. And when you look at like your podcast or my YouTube channel, the reason it grows is because more and more people are waking up. I think there's more and more of a demand for this. And more than ever, I believe what's going to continue to happen is not only are people going to wake up, but like the people that are listening to us right now, I believe that they are the leading edge of consciousness and the leading edge of them embodying their true power, their true energy. And that by them being that version of themselves, that's what transforms the planet. It starts with us. And then collectively, the more we follow our passion, the more we become aware of these patterns within ourselves, the more we release the stuck energy inside of our bodies, the more we elevate our own frequency, our own vibration, and that changes the planet. And I truly believe that within the next 50 to 100 years, I believe that even the next 10, 15 years, I believe life will continue to exponentialize and change in many ways. I believe that eventually we'll have like first contact. I believe that ETs exist. And I believe that the government's known about it for a very long time. I believe that that will be common knowledge I believe it kind of already is, but it will be more so common knowledge over the next 10, 15 years. I believe eventually we'll be looking into like the planet more and just how much harm we're doing to the oceans and shit. I believe there'll be technology that cleans a lot of that up that maybe we find or create. I believe that more people will be following their passions and doing what they love, and they won't be working jobs that they hate.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of different layers to it, but for me, it's like, I just want to embody the highest vibrational version of me that I can. And that means that the version of me that's more like in my heart and more passionate and more emotionally available and more expressive in whatever way that looks like. But I believe that this is the most exciting time to be alive ever. I believe that at the end of this life, we'll have, we'll be able to really connect to higher levels if we want, or, stay here. I don't know. I think it's exciting time that we live in right now, and that more transformation will happen the next 10, 20, 40 years than we could even possibly imagine,
I agree. Well, I want you to know that you're on it. Like, you're totally on that path. And you've been, even though like every iteration of growth feels like, oh man, it's like you've been doing it. You've been doing the work. And thank you for sharing that with people. And it's working. That's all I can say. It's working. So thank you.
And thank you for what you do. And thank you for like all the energy you put out into the world, because you have such a great energy, and I can just tell that you're making a big difference, and you're bringing this kind of awareness and energy to like an audience that I think is like it's very beneficial. And I think it's cool the way you're bridging these different realities together. And I think you do it in a very level of high integrity, and like you're also I've hung out with you before, and you're just a very interesting and awesome person. You're great in real life too. So just thank you for being you and everything you're doing.
Hopefully we connect again soon.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Thanks everybody for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.